The alleged capture of Nicolas Maduro by U.S. forces, as reported, marks a potential watershed moment in the long-standing and fraught relationship between the United States and Venezuela. While the veracity and exact details of this event require careful scrutiny, assuming its accuracy, the implications are profound and multifaceted, impacting geopolitics, international law, and the future of Venezuela itself. This analysis will delve into the key aspects of this development, exploring its background, potential consequences, and placing it within the broader historical and political context. The first major point centers on the legality and justification for U.S. military action within Venezuela. The U.S. has long maintained a stance of non-recognition of Maduro's government, viewing it as illegitimate and authoritarian. The U.S. has levied sanctions and provided support to opposition leader Juan Guaidó, who, at one point, was recognized by the U.S. as the interim president. However, the direct deployment of U.S. military forces to apprehend a sitting head of state, regardless of legitimacy debates, raises serious questions under international law. Principles of sovereignty and non-intervention are cornerstones of the international legal system. While the U.S. may argue justifications based on self-defense, if Maduro posed a direct threat, the reported indictment in a New York court suggests a primary motive of criminal prosecution, which sits uneasily with established international norms governing the use of force. Second, the domestic reaction within Venezuela will be critical. The Maduro regime has cultivated a loyal following, particularly within the military and among beneficiaries of government programs. A power vacuum created by Maduro's removal could trigger violent clashes between pro- and anti-Maduro factions, potentially escalating into a full-blown civil war. Furthermore, the perception of a foreign power intervening to oust a national leader, regardless of his unpopularity, could galvanize nationalist sentiment and strengthen support for remnants of the Maduro regime. Any future governance structure will need to address deeply ingrained political divisions and rebuild trust across a fragmented society. Third, the implications for regional geopolitics are significant. Venezuela's neighbors, particularly those with leftist leanings, are likely to view the U.S. action with deep suspicion. Countries like Cuba and Nicaragua, which have historically close ties with Venezuela, may condemn the intervention and deepen their alliance against what they perceive as U.S. imperialism. Conversely, countries aligned with U.S. foreign policy goals in the region, such as Colombia, may cautiously welcome the development, albeit with concerns about the potential for instability spilling across their borders. The broader effect could be a further polarization of Latin America and a resurgence of anti-U.S. sentiment. The historical context is crucial to understanding the present situation. U.S.-Venezuelan relations have been turbulent for decades, marked by periods of cooperation and conflict. Under Hugo Chavez, Venezuela adopted an explicitly anti-U.S. stance, forging alliances with countries like Iran and Cuba. The subsequent economic crisis under Maduro, exacerbated by U.S. sanctions, has led to widespread poverty, hyperinflation, and a mass exodus of Venezuelans. The U.S. has long sought to influence Venezuelan politics, viewing the country as strategically important due to its vast oil reserves and proximity to the U.S. mainland. The history of U.S. interventionism in Latin America casts a long shadow, shaping perceptions of U.S. motives and fueling mistrust among many in the region. The current context also involves the internal dynamics of Venezuelan politics. The Maduro regime has been accused of widespread human rights abuses, including arbitrary arrests, torture, and extrajudicial killings. International organizations like the United Nations have documented these abuses extensively. The opposition, led by figures like Guaidó, has struggled to mount a credible challenge to Maduro, hampered by internal divisions and the regime's control of state institutions. The economic crisis has created widespread discontent, but the regime has been able to maintain its grip on power through a combination of repression, patronage, and propaganda. In conclusion, the reported capture of Nicolas Maduro by U.S. forces is a highly consequential event with far-reaching implications. The legality of the action, the potential for domestic instability in Venezuela, and the impact on regional geopolitics are all critical considerations. The historical context of U.S.-Venezuelan relations and the internal dynamics of Venezuelan politics are essential for understanding the complexities of the situation. While the removal of Maduro may be seen by some as a positive step, it carries significant risks and uncertainties. A successful transition to a stable and democratic Venezuela will require a comprehensive and carefully considered approach, involving not only the U.S. but also regional actors and the Venezuelan people themselves. The future of Venezuela hinges on addressing the underlying political and economic grievances that have fueled the crisis and ensuring that any new government is accountable, inclusive, and committed to upholding human rights and the rule of law.